This is our first
We're
time.
back.
It is our first time recording in roughly 5 months, which
Wait, no, May, June, July, August, September, October, November. That's 6 months.
and we didn't have anything go horrendously wrong yet. So I'm just anticipating within the next couple of minutes, I don't know, maybe the power going out in your studio, maybe my house starting on fire. One of those things could happen in the next couple of minutes. Probably will have us lose the recording, I would
Yeah.
imagine. But until then, I can say I am Jonathan Martin. This is Cody Goff. We host a little podcast called Game Life Balance US, the
It
US
is a
branch.
little, it is a little podcast.
That's what I said. Well, that's why I said a little podcast. A little podcast called Game Life Balance US, the US edition of the Game Life Balance podcast. It has been a very long time since we have been with you all, which is super exciting for us now that we're back. We did take a little hiatus because this was actually on Cody mostly, this particular break that we took, because you had a couple of big things that happened to you. In fact, now you are literally a professional podcaster now.
Yeah. Yeah, that was weird. I don't know how that happened. Yes, I am. If you're watching this on Google Hangouts, which you can subscribe to Game Life Balance US on YouTube. We've got a YouTube channel, but you can see behind me the Curiosity logo. I now work for the award-winning Curiosity.com.
We have not rebranded.
We have not rebranded.
That is just where you work.
No, yes, no. I do host the Curiosity podcast, but that is a separate entity that is in no way affiliated with the Gonna Geek Network or with Game Life Balance US.
Mostly to protect Curiosity,
Right.
not to protect us.
Yeah. The affiliation with me is strong, but yeah, I mean, I guess the only affiliation is that I'm just doing this episode in the studio because I was still at work at 7-something p.m. and I just hit up John and I was like, maybe I should just stay at work and we should do this episode.
In fact, from my understanding, they don't actually know that you even have another podcast because you were too ashamed to tell them. So I don't know how you landed that job in the first place.
They know that I have a podcast, but I told them it was called Game Life Balance Australia. So
the inferior version of the Game Life Balance podcast?
The inferior version of the game. Oh no. Shots fired. And Rob and AC were so nice to give me a congratulatory shout out for getting married on one of the recent episodes. Although I will say that they were disappointed that I wasn't marrying Uncle Stabbo. So,
that actually is kind of flattering that they think we have such a good rapport that we might as well be married. That's pretty good. It's good to be back. This feels natural.
Does it?
No.
Us trolling each other.
Well, yeah, that does feel natural, but it feels good to be back and doing this again. I have honestly missed it. I haven't missed you, but I've missed the process of doing this.
I have. That's because you don't do any of the work.
That's what I'm saying. I've really missed not doing any of the work for the podcast.
Yeah, I gotta say, the Gonna Geek branding colors on my T-shirt match the Curiosity logo shockingly well. Maybe we should try and work something out.
It's a little weird, isn't it?
I'll talk to the Stephen John Roos of the Gonna Geek Network, who is the owner. I think the official GonnaGeek.com podcast is actually recording right now. We just decided to butt heads with them because why not? I mean, if we're going to come back, we might as well do it and annoy as many people as possible.
To be fair, we have always recorded on Monday night.
Yeah, I remember that from Never.
We've always recorded on Monday night.
We've always done it that way. Yeah. I will say it was on me. I mean, if it were just the fact that I was getting married and planning a wedding and that's why we went on a break, I'd feel bad because you didn't even, I mean, you took a break when you had a child, but not that big of a break. But it was the combination of planning a relatively significant sized wedding and the new job, which I am extremely happy. And I'm not just saying that for PR purposes. Like, working at Curiosity is by far the most fulfilling job I have ever had. I love it. I was working until 7 o'clock tonight and I wouldn't complain about this job like at all. It's pretty much, I mean, I don't want to say it's a dream job because that sounds kind of like hokey and maybe insincere, but it kind of is. And I don't want to jinx it either, but I'm really, really digging it here. That said, the Curiosity podcast is an immense amount of work, and I am front to back. I'm booking the guests, producing, editing, and hosting every single episode. My co-host Ashley Hamer, who also works here and is awesome, does script a lot of this, all the stuff that she does with the podcast. So there is a lot of it that I don't write out, but I'm the one still like doing all the editing and putting it in there. So it's a huge, just ridiculous amount of work. And I threw my hands up in May and was just like, John, this is not.
Yeah, and on top of that, I think you were also still working at your other job as well for roughly 20 hours a week. So you were transitioning to this new job and working your old job and planning a wedding.
I forgot about that. Yeah, literally, I quit my last job and I was the social media manager for a global marketing consulting firm. And they didn't know what to do because my skill set was so specialized and they couldn't replace me right away. And the day I gave my 2 weeks notice was 2 weeks before my boss was supposed to go on paternity leave. So, which I felt like a huge jerk for doing, but I was like, these guys at Curiosity want me. So like, what can I do? So I put in my 2 weeks and I think he was just like, dude, this is stupid timing and ridiculous. Can you just
keep working?
Can you just like basically like put in some hours and we'll work out some work. So yeah, I was like kind of like independent contracting it ended up being like 3 months into this job. So I was legit working like 60 or 70 hours a week. So it's just like crazy summertime.
Who knew that your love of LinkedIn could be so fruitful?
Could be so fruitful and so fleeting. Who knew that someday I would not want to work on LinkedIn, the worst social network, the most broken website on the internet? Dude, do you know what they introduced right before I left? So,
wait a minute, hang on. I'm gonna guess it has something to do with social linking based on hobbies that you like.
No, that would have been useful. No. So LinkedIn, they started making it impossible to find blog posts on there, which they had just introduced. They started phasing out the groups feature. So like how every social network has groups, including LinkedIn, they just stopped appearing in news feeds and things like that. They started phasing out all these features. And you know what feature they introduced? Profile picture photo filters.
What is that? Wait, to make like put a sepia tone or something on your profile photo?
Yes.
That's important.
Literally, yes. That's what LinkedIn was working on. That's what LinkedIn did. Instead of fixing its broken website, they added photo filters. Sorry, I'm like yelling.
No, I can tell how passionate you are with your love for LinkedIn. That's all that means.
God, freaking LinkedIn. I can't. Anyway, so yeah, it's a bit, and summer, you traveled and did stuff too. Like, I mean, everybody's busy around the summertime. We both always get really crazy busy.
It is, and I know I've talked about summers in Minnesota before, but it just generally really holds true that it gets so cold up here in the wintertime, and you can go 3 months without seeing your neighbors. And I'm not exaggerating. It can get so gross outside up here in Minnesota that you can go 3 months without seeing your neighbors. And so like the summertime and the springtime rolls around and just everybody goes outside and stays outside for as much as they can, because it's the only sunlight we get for 4 months out of the year until our 9-month winter starts. Those numbers don't add up. It doesn't matter. It's a very long winter. It's a very long winter. Some say that people are born and they never see a summer before their entire lives pass. That happened in a book that I read once.
Now, is it that you don't see your neighbors because of the restraining orders, or is that different?
That's a different thing, and that's only a specific couple of neighbors.
Okay. A couple meaning like 6 out of the 7.
A couple meaning most of the people on my block, yes.
Mm-hmm.
We have an agreement, I guess is what it boils down to. So anyway, when the summer rolled around, and I've also got a kid, so we like to get out and go do a lot of stuff. So, I mean, it was the kind of thing where I would say maybe 4 weekends out of all of the weekends of the summer probably didn't have something already planned. I mean, it was constant. It was a constant barrage of things. And there were 2 weddings that I was in. One was yours, one was another buddy's of mine. And along with a wedding comes like a bachelor party, which for you happened at Gen Con, but that was another that was another weekend that was used, and then he had a bachelor party, and that was another weekend that was used. So it was a very busy summer. It was. And so it was actually probably good that we didn't do a lot of recording, even though I was playing a lot of video games at the time. We were both very busy. So
I was only playing Final Fantasy 14.
you were, and even then you were kind of tempered back on that a little bit, if I remember correctly, talking to you around that time, just because you were so busy. I mean, you were gone for 12 to 14 hours a day for a lot of your days.
Yeah.
So
there was that.
Yeah. So there wasn't a ton of time.
Yeah, no complaints. So we're back, and yeah, we've got some catching up to do, and we actually have plans for the podcast, like very, very specific plans that we're going to be doing moving along, as we move forward with the podcast. We are back, by the way. So I'm gonna post this episode at the very end of November. So if you're listening to the audio episode, hi, welcome. And yeah, every 2 weeks we're gonna actually have a new episode. So I mean, that's the plan anyway. So yeah, there's plans, man.
I mean, who knows? Maybe we'll get excited and we'll record even more than that. Who knows? I will have very little to do in the wintertime.
Right.
Just generally.
Right. So yeah, so we'll start off with a little bit of life stuff, because you're hearing this if you're a subscriber basically, and you haven't heard from us for a while. So we should probably catch up, since it's been 6 months, and then we'll talk about some of the gaming stuff that we've been doing, and talk very high level video game stuff. I do want to hopefully touch on Super Mario Odyssey if we have time, because I just beat it. Super good game for Nintendo Switch. And then we're going to end the episode with some listener interaction, I suppose. And in every episode that we do, basically for the next at least year, we're going to ask for listener interaction, and based on your feedback, that's going to determine some of the content of our episodes. So very exciting ways for you to get involved, and you'll be able to tell us on Twitter, and we'll tell you how to do all that at the end of the episode. But the life stuff, I mean, a lot happened, obviously. Like we don't have time to do all of it, because this is just going to be not a 4-hour podcast. But the thing that John and I both did, other than Gen Con, as we always do, that we should probably talk about is I keep putting up my left hand and there's a ring on it. So,
because somebody liked it, so they put a ring on it.
That's what happened.
Yeah. You had a wedding in Chicago.
I had one. You went. Have I even talked to you since? Like, I mean, I haven't talked to you as a human since the wedding. I
don't think we've talked as a human since the wedding. I just had to bug you over and over again to go get a bag that I left, because I have an incredible ability just to leave bags around cars without putting them in cars.
Yeah. What? I don't know. So yeah. And then I've talked about my wedding on a couple other podcasts, but I know our Australian listeners. Good day, mate.
Yeah, you pulled them all in with that one.
We have a sister show, Game Life Balance Australia, and they spend half of their episodes trolling us.
I know they do.
Sometimes you, but mostly me. And so, I mean,
to be fair, you deserve it a lot more than me.
To be fair, I do. But I mean, I've got to start to give it back. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
I do.
A little bit of something.
Yeah, I do. So, yeah, you got married in Chicago. I was in the wedding, which was, again, thank you very much for that honor. It was a flattering honor. It was a super fun wedding. I had a great time. You look like you had a good time too.
I had an incredible time. It was like it was.
So Cody and his wife booked what felt like it was either an old hotel in Chicago or a historic hotel, or both.
Both.
It was like a historic hotel in downtown Chicago, basically right on the lake.
The Congress Plaza Hotel.
Congress Plaza Hotel, which it was 1 block from the lake. In fact, one of my friends, Max, and I ran around the lake the day after your wedding.
Did you really?
Yeah. Not the whole lake, because Lake Superior is really big.
Mm-hmm.
It was almost, though. We almost made it around the whole lake. But it was like right by Soldier Field's, like right there, isn't it?
It's it's runnable,
right? Because we ran south a little bit, and I'm fairly certain we ran into Soldier Field, like ran ran up next to it, and all of like the museums and everything are down on that area.
Mhm.
And it was a really awesome area of Chicago for sure. And it was an awesome wedding too.
Thanks. Yeah. Yeah, it was the Congress Plaza Hotel is where it's actually where H. Holmes, America's first serial killer.
Triple H? Oh, wait, no, this is something different. I'm sorry.
Triple H. Holmes, the America's first serial killer or something, used to meet women there that were in from out of town, and he would seduce them, bring them back to his hotel, and murder them to death. So
wait, is that why you chose the hotel? Because that is romantic.
Do you know it's the most haunted hotel in Chicago?
They were trying to tell me something about that. People wanted to talk to me the entire time I was there. People that I couldn't see wanted to talk to me about how haunted the hotel was. Which was
usually
weird.
If you can't see them, that's probably a symptom of them being a ghost.
I actually didn't know it was that haunted of a hotel. Was that something we were supposed to know?
Then you did not talk to my mom at any point during the weekend, because she thought that was just the bee's knees. And I thought that by the time the wedding was over, everyone knew that. But it's actually funny because the wedding date was Friday, October 20th. We almost booked it for the previous weekend, Friday
Which
the
would have
13th.
been Friday the 13th, yeah.
Because we thought it'd be kind of funny, and we don't believe in superstition. And it's like Friday the 13th in October, would be kind of funny.
At the most haunted hotel in all of Chicago.
Right. It was, I don't know. It was a thing, but we just didn't. I think hotel rooms are like cheaper if we did on the 20th. So.
Actually, the only time I saw your mother was when we very first entered your room to get ready for the actual wedding, and she got out of there pretty darn quick once the guys showed up. She was like, "I do not want to be in this room anymore," and she left. And I don't blame her.
Yeah. So the ceremony, I've just got to say this ridiculous thing. So we booked for this. So the wedding reception is with the Congress Plaza Hotel, and they have a separate room for ceremonies.
Oh, really quick, let's talk about how it was October 20th in Chicago, and it was 75 degrees outside.
Yeah, no, this is what I'm getting to. Okay. So you remember you were there for you missed it. So you weren't there for the wedding rehearsal, but
I was not.
There is a room intended for ceremonies that's separate from where we had our reception, and it's like a hideous room. It just doesn't work. Like, I loved the reception in the venue was fantastic, but this one room is just awful. So I decided we should book a ceremony somewhere else. And Casey loves nature. My Casey, not your Casey, because now we're both married to Casey's, which is weird
and awesome. Weird and awesome.
It's just good choices on both of our parts, I think. So Casey loves nature and stuff. And there's a lot of people don't necessarily know this, but if you're in a major city, you can still, even if you're in San Francisco or Los Angeles or somewhere, you can get some really beautiful locations if they're owned by park districts, because typically the city park districts don't charge an arm and a leg for whatever reason for booking the venues. So we were able to get at a really decent price. This spot right along the lake, it was called Promontory Point. It's a man-made peninsula that was developed during the Chicago World's Fair in, who knows, 18 something or whatever. And there's a little building on there called the Promontory Point building or whatever. And the capacity was like exactly the number of wedding guests we had. And next to it is the lake. It's 100 feet from the lake, basically.
It's on the lake. It's right on the lake.
It's on the lake. So when we booked it in March or April or something, I said, and I've always said this, always said this since day one. I was like, it has been extremely unseasonably warm in late October for the last 3 years. And I usually know this because on Halloween, I notice when there are hot girls not wearing any clothes. And these are the things.
That sounds like something you would notice. These
are the things that I notice, especially college-age people, because John thinks that's the only person I socialize with is college students. Right?
Are you calling me a liar?
Right. So I knew this, and I was like, we'll plan, quote unquote, air quotes, we'll plan on having the wedding ceremony in this building. But if, against all odds, if the weather's beautiful, we could always just set up the chairs outside and have it right along the lake. Yeah, boom. Friday, October 20th in Chicago, 75 degrees and sunny.
Yeah, it was beautiful. In fact, there were moments where I was actually warm. Because
Yeah,
we were in tuxedos.
yeah, me too. No, the average temperature in October in Chicago is usually around 50 degrees. Oh, do we have to convert it to centigrade for the Australians?
For the Aussies, yeah, because they're not going to understand a word of what you just said. In fact, I think if you said 75 degrees to them, they would think that was the surface of the sun.
All right, hold on. Okay, Google. How many degrees centigrade is 75 degrees Fahrenheit? It's going to tell me.
I don't think it's going to tell you.
It is 23.889 degrees Celsius.
That seems really cold. I don't know
All right.
I don't know how you Aussies live where it's so cold.
All right. Okay, Google. How many degrees centigrade is 50 degrees Fahrenheit?
This is really good. This is good
350
radio.
degrees Fahrenheit equals 176.667
That's not what you
degrees.
said. You didn't say 350 degrees.
All right. So usually in Chicago, it's 176.666 degrees Celsius. So we really got away with murder.
That's right. You got really lucky.
No, but we did get stupidly lucky. I've always had a good feeling about it, but the gamble paid off. And then we all went to the reception, got really drunk, and had a good time. I think you got drunk, right?
I did, and then we went to bed. I went to bed very early. Life has changed so much since we had a kid a couple of years ago, and bedtime is. I think we left at like midnight to go to bed or something like that, and it was wonderful because I slept in and it was nice.
You left before midnight because I was.
It might have been 11:30.
It might have been 10 because I was looking all over for you at like 10:30 or 11. I was like, "Where is John Martin?" And somebody said, "I think you went to bed." I didn't even see your wife at the reception physically at all until I didn't see her until the next morning at brunch.
That could be because she values sleep now even more than me. So that could be. I thought it was 11:30, but then again, I also was inebriated. So who knows, right?
Well, as long as you got wasted and had fun,
I had a great time. I did. I had a great time, and I was able to get up and run the next day, and felt relatively awful rather than completely awful. So that was good too.
Yeah,
and unfortunately, we weren't able to hang around. But it sounded like you had kind of a cool set because you got married on a Friday.
Mm-hmm.
So you had a Saturday for your wedding guests kind of as well, right?
Yeah, we planned a bar night on Saturday because we knew a lot of people were in from out of town, and it's like
and they were gonna hang out, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually surprised at how few people were able to do that. A lot of people had to take off Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon, so it wasn't like a big raging party Saturday, but a lot of Casey's college friends were able to stay, which was great. Sure. One of her friends had flown in from China. He owns a bar in China somewhere. So he had quite the trip. And so, yeah, all her friends raged and ended up coming over to my apartment. Someone mentioned the pretense of playing Rock Band, but that never happened. But yeah, so we hung out a little bit Friday, and then I just took a couple days off work. No honeymoon or anything. We spent all our money traveling this summer. So I
believe, and I don't think we had recorded at the time, but you had said back when the last time we recorded, you were talking about honeymoons and stuff like that. And I think you had said that you had agreed that Germany, because didn't you guys go to Germany together?
Yeah, we spent a week in Germany.
That was kind of like your honeymoon that counted, right?
Yeah, like the third day we were in Germany, we were staying at this not like expensive, but like a nicer hotel. And we're looking at each other, and she just said, "So this is our honeymoon, right?" And I was like, "Yep." Yeah, out of money. But I mean, the intent is to take an unofficial honeymoon to Japan in the next few years. That's actually where we've agreed on. So if that happens, I don't know. But yeah, everything went extremely smoothly. Like you said, the weather was fantastic. Everything worked out well. There were no major errors.
Your master of ceremonies was actually somebody that you do your radio show with, the person that you have done your radio show with for the past 7 years?
Like 9.
That? So the past 9 years, which you can hear on Sunday evenings on WGN Radio.
Yeah.
So Brian Noonan was your master of ceremonies, which was awesome.
That was really cool. Was he good or was he good?
He was great. Yeah, he's really great. It's almost like he's a professional kind of vocal personality, which you can definitely tell.
Yeah. No, Brian, the officiant was fantastic. And did you see the cake topper on the wedding cake?
I don't think I was able to get that close.
The cake topper we had on the wedding cake, and you'll see it in the background of future episodes that I do at home, but the cake topper was, I had on Etsy, I had this person kind of like custom, not like custom make, it makes it sound like it's some like big expensive thing, but like she custom makes, she had 2 chocobos, and one is wearing a little bow tie and the other's wearing a tiara. And
that is fantastic.
That was our nerdy cake topper. And for the cake cutting, which we did right away, we walked in, and I'll hopefully be able to post some video of this at some point, but we walked in and you can describe it if you want, or I can, I don't know.
I believe that you were going to use a knife to cut the cake, but then you decided to go with the master sword that was hidden underneath the head table where we were all sitting. So you pulled out a master sword and cut the cake with that.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
That's yeah. Master Sword from The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, by the way. That little Hylian etching on the inside. You can get Master Sword surprisingly cheap online.
Shocking to me, I guess.
Yeah. So, yeah, a little bit of Zelda, a little bit of Final Fantasy. We actually came in, and one of our other friends, John, who was also in the wedding party, his girlfriend plays violin, and she plays in string quartets. And so she volunteered at a significant discount for the services of a string quartet. So they came and played, and the processional, when I walked in and the wedding party walked in, was, you heard the song, right?
I did.
Yeah, it was the main theme from Final Fantasy, which has been my only wedding goal since
it's been your only requirement.
Was like 20 years old. Yeah, no, seriously, it was. It was like, I am walking in or out to the Final Fantasy theme. This is non-negotiable. Anything else, I don't care, but this is happening, and it happened. And so I have nothing to complain about.
So now you've been married for a month. What's that like? How's it feel?
Yeah, it feels great. I'm still getting used to the ring. Here's the weirdest thing about being married at this point. So during the wedding reception, Casey's father gave us the most elaborate toast I've probably ever seen, and involved props.
There were a lot of props.
It was essentially an elaborate set of puns, but he incorporated tribbles into this toast.
He did.
Like, he got half a dozen, or it was like 6 or 8 or 10 little stuffed tribbles. Tribbles are basically balls of fur from the original Star Trek.
That vibrate.
Yes, that vibrate and make noises. And he was throwing tribbles, which I somehow caught, even though I was tired and drunk. But we had all these tribbles. And so after the wedding, I was like, Casey, this toast will mean so much more to you if you see the episode of Star Trek with tribbles, because she's never seen an episode of Star Trek before, like any of them.
That's crazy.
I know, right? And like, you and I in 2nd grade did Star Trek Club.
Right.
Right? I mean, and 3rd grade, I think. I mean, we were really into it. Really,
for sure.
That was like our thing.
Very into Star Trek.
So I showed Casey the episode of Troubled Tribbles, thinking like, now were you an original series guy ever, or just Next Generation?
I was just Next Generation and Voyager.
Didn't you really get into Deep Space Nine?
No, I never watched Deep Space Nine. It's always been one that I want to watch, but I have never gotten into it. I hear it's very good, but I have not watched Deep Space Nine.
You got into Voyager.
I loved Voyager until the end of it. The last couple seasons were awful, but the show up until that point I really liked.
Yeah. So I was never an original series guy either, except for the movies. And I'm thinking like, okay, it's kind of jokey. It's a silly episode. She'll think it's, cute or stupid or whatever it is. And then like, she'll have seen Star Trek. And then someday I'll like convince her to watch Star Trek. She loved the show. Like,
well, I mean, it's in her DNA, right? Her dad absolutely loves the show. So
what you have to understand about my wife is that she likes, she really enjoys older films and like the art of film and cinema and things like that. And is able to watch things at a slower pace, I guess. And I don't know what it was, but it like clicked. And she immediately was like, can we watch another episode? Which like at this point, my mind is already blown. So we start watching another episode. We are now like 12 episodes into season 1 of the original Star Trek.
Wow.
So for me, the weirdest thing about being married is like, I saw this thread on Reddit last week that was like, what aspect of your life would 12-year-old you think is the coolest thing about you as an adult? And 100% mine would be, I married a girl that wants to watch every episode of Star Trek. Like,
Mhm.
I feel like I'm like teleported back to my childhood. But not because I never watched the original series, but I own the first edition Star Trek encyclopedia. So like, I know every reference they're talking about. Like when they say warp 1, I know that means light speed. When they say impulse power, I know how fast that is. I know what a class M planet is. I know all the races. I know what the Klingon neutral zone is. Like I know what the Vulcan death grip and the mind meld are. You know, I have all of the vocabulary, but I haven't used it in 20 years. So that's the weirdest thing about married life. It's awesome. I'm enjoying it, but yeah, it's just like it's interesting. I don't know. What was the weirdest part of your
That's
being
adorable.
married? What was the weirdest part of you being married? Because you were your wife for like 6 years before you got married, right?
It honestly felt no different because we had already been living together in a home. We had been dating we got married in 2000. It was 12, 10, 11. So we got married in 2011. We'd been dating since 2004. So it was 2005. We had known each other for a very long time. So
Yeah.
we had kind of learned each other's all of like the weird stuff that comes up when you live with somebody else. We had kind of already learned all of that stuff. So marriage for us was like it was a logical step
Right.
before like starting a family, which we both wanted to do.
Did you like discover anything after your wedding? I mean, other than that I liked
I mean, other than
unrelated.
the 3 copies of Root Search, no, not really.
It's good. That's good.
No, nothing that we hadn't already had the time to discover up until that point.
Yeah.
Like any relationship, there was plenty of discovery over the course of the many years that we were together.
Star Trek Discovery?
She tried to watch Star Trek: The Next Generation with me and got into it a little bit, and then I think I should have skipped most of the first season. I think that was where I went wrong because I'm talking about Next Generation, because the first season of Next Generation is not good. And I remembered that as I watched it again relatively recently, just a couple of years ago. And then the second season is really where that show picks up again. So I think I kind of messed that one up.
So I told our friend Brad the story I just told you about how we're watching Star Trek.
Yeah.
And I mentioned to him, my plan is to start watching Next Generation, but I think I might skip the first season. And Brad has probably watched the whole series of Next Generation
multiple times,
19 times.
Yeah.
It like that could honestly be a not exaggeration.
For sure.
Seriously.
Yeah.
And he was like, actually, the last time I saw the first season, I really liked it. And if Casey liked the original series, she would love the first season. So I think the first season is like just really cheesy in the way the original series was.
Maybe. All I know is that the last time that I watched it, I was like, this is not at all what I remember Star Trek: The Next Generation being like when I was younger. And then getting into the second and then especially the third and the fourth seasons, I was like, okay, this is where I remember all of like the best stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It's a different flavor. The first season is a different flavor
for sure
than the rest. Like the seasons 2 through 5 maybe are sour cream and onion. And then seasons 6 and 7, I think,
the superior salt and vinegar. Right. I know exactly.
Salt and vinegar is fine. And then season 1 is like cheddar.
Dumpster fire.
Cool,
it's dumpster. It's
dumpster
garbage
fire, cheddar Pringle trash.
Cheddar Pringles are delicious. So
why wouldn't you just eat goldfish or Cheez-Its?
Because sometimes you're in the mood for a cheddar Pringle.
No one is ever in the mood.
And goldfish end up becoming a meal. Sometimes you don't want a meal of chips or crackers.
I could eat a carton of goldfish and still be hungry.
Then something is wrong with you.
We know several things are wrong with me. This is not news to anyone. All right. Let's just get that clear.
So we're back again. We haven't done anything for a long time. This technically isn't like the first video game related thing we've done since we kind of went off the air in May, because you and I did an Extra Life stream for charity, which you proposed. That was about a month ago. A couple weeks ago, about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. Well, you remember we interviewed Oliver Voitna of from Extra Life. He's the Indianapolis chapter, I guess, or
Yep.
something. We interviewed him on one of our last episodes of our last podcast, Unqualified Gamers, a few years ago. And Extra Life is it's a marathon. You play video games for 24 hours. You raise money for charity, and everybody has a good time for children's hospitals. And ever since then, like when he was telling us about it, I'm like, oh my God, this sounds so fun. We have to do this. And I just forgot about it every year. And then I randomly saw a tweet like the week after my wedding, and I'm like, oh, it's in a week and a half. We should do this. And we pretty much did.
Yeah, I mean, you set it up, and I felt bad because I didn't do basically any fundraising at all up until the actual day that we did it. But the day that we had a whole plan set up, which I thought was really great. You and I took about so the goal of Extra Life is a marathon where you play, at its heart, it's just a marathon where you ask people to donate money to a children's hospital of your choice. They use that money for a variety of things. I think originally it was they bought video game systems and other things for the children's hospitals for the kids to play that are staying there. I think it's branched out a little since then to be a little more stuff that they use that money for.
Mm-hmm.
But at its heart, it's just you ask people to donate money and then you play video games for 24 hours. You don't have to like show people that you're playing video games or anything. It's just like, this is something you do for this. People pledge money for you to play video games for 24 hours, and you do, and that's your Extra Life stream. That's your Extra Life donation thing. Recently, over the past couple of years, because streaming has become so popular, it's now been popularized, and it also puts an amount of peer pressure on everybody else that's doing the stream to raise money to actually live stream yourself playing video games on Twitch or on YouTube. So we have the capability, the very rudimentary capability, because we are not streaming experts by any means, but we have the capability to stream to Twitch. And so we decided that's what we were going to do. So Cody and I took the first 8 hours of the day. It was like 10 to 6 o'clock or something like that. That was our shift. And we played video games over the course of that time. We played some games with our friends. Cody and I played a couple games together. And at 6 o'clock, I ducked out a little earlier than that. 6 o'clock rolled around. We had another friend basically take over the stream, and he played Cuphead. And I caught a little bit of him playing Cuphead, but he played some other stuff. And then at about 10 o'clock our time here in the States, our Aussie friends took over, and they took over the stream for the next like 12 hours, right? And basically, I mean, they took over this. They were over the stream for the rest of it, basically.
I don't know if they covered the whole rest of the 24 hours. Because I didn't want them. I didn't want to ask these guys to just commit 10 hours, or because we did. Yeah, if we did 8 and Ryan did, I think he did 4. Then I would have had to be 12. I don't think they did a full 12.
But regardless, I mean, we had a very long stretch where we as a group and as a team, because it's you kind of make an Extra Life team, that we were streaming, and over the course of that day we raised $600, over $600, which was crazy cool.
Yeah, we raised more than $600 for Children's Miracle Network hospitals, and there were donations during the Australian stream, which I was watching their stream. So the reason that I didn't do 24 hours is because my future niece is my oldest brother's engaged and to someone who has a daughter, and I'm going to be her godfather, and her baptism was the following day. So I found out about Extra Life, and I'm like, well, I can't play for 24 hours because I have to go to Rockford for a baptism. So I was like, well, we can do 8 hours, and then maybe our friends can pitch in and we can do, the rest of it. And since Australia's got a different time zone and stuff, I'm like, well, if they take over at 10 p.m. our time, it's like 2 p.m. Sunday their time. So, and God knows they don't have any friends or
anything to do down there other than get killed by poisonous animals.
Right, exactly. So it's either dodge giant tarantulas and fire tornadoes or play video games for children's hospitals in America, which has a garbage healthcare system. So I said, will you please take pity on our miserable, pathetic country that can't take care of any of its citizens? And they said, okay, mate, good day. Let me put another shrimp on the barbie.
That's exactly what they said, though.
No, it wasn't.
Which is, it's a really long-winded way to say yes every time you say yes, but it's one of those regional dialectic things.
It's a cultural thing.
Right.
And we need to respect that.
We do respect that.
So, yeah.
But it was super fun. I had a ton of fun that day, and it made me pine for the days of recording and then not doing any more work on the podcast.
I'm sure it did. You know what really bothered me? So I was going to take some highlights from our stream and, maybe mash them into like a 5-minute highlight reel podcast or something. So on Twitch, none of the streams that we did, we all did it from the same Twitch account. You can follow us on Twitch at Game Life Balance. We're not going to use it for another year, but feel free. So, but I wanted to go in there, and so I go in the back end, and none of our videos were saved because you have to check a box.
You have to check a box to save the videos.
Just save broadcast after you and I didn't know this. So when I was set up the account, I didn't check the box, so we don't have any of the streams.
That's okay. It was still good, regardless.
Yeah, it was great. Oh my god! And I'm so glad the Australians went on so late because they started playing Super Back to the Future 2. I gotta tell you the lineup. So John and I played Risk of Rain with our friends, which was really fun, even though we kept dying. And then we started playing Heroes of the Storm, which I had never played, and that went poorly. No one watched us at that point. And that's when I kind of realized I think there are games that are really fun to watch, and there are games that are not at all fun to watch.
Sure, and that being said, Heroes of the Storm is a MOBA, which is probably they are the most watched games on Twitch. The problem is that they are watched by people that understand them, and they're watched by people that play them. Yeah. And the audience that we're targeting when we stream for this thing, they do not they're not MOBA players.
Yeah, but games like Daryl TV went on after us, our friend Ryan. And they played Cuphead for a while, which is if you've never played it or heard of it, it's in the styles of 1920s cartoons.
Yeah, it's
really
crazy.
Phenomenal artistic style. And that was so fun to watch because it's like, I don't care how good or bad they are. It's so good to watch.
Right.
Then, did you see what they started playing at the very end of their stream?
No.
They got on with Russian John and they started playing some platformer game that looked like poop. It looked like a 4-bit game. It was the most hideous game I've ever seen. And I don't know what it was. I don't know how fun it was, but I hated looking at it. And
excellent.
There are some games that maybe they're fun, but they're the worst to look at.
Sure.
And then the Australians played. So Rob couldn't make it for the start of the stream, but AC was with his friend. They played a Ranma 1/2 fighting game.
Oh my gosh.
A Japanese,
like a Super Nintendo type thing?
16-bit Super Famicom Japanese exclusive Ranma 1/2 game. And that was so incredible to watch. Ranma 1/2 is a hilarious anime that John and I watched when we were in middle school.
Yeah.
And then they played Super Back to the Future 2, and AC just made a bunch of really inappropriate jokes about Michael J. Fox. I'll let you use your imagination. And at that point I was like, Casey was watching with me. She's like, he cannot say these things. I was like,
and so you tapped out. That was when you
am. I don't know. It's probably okay in Australia. I don't know.
Just attract these people. I see what it is.
It's a cultural thing. And then, and then they recorded a podcast later. So yeah, it's a good time. So yeah, Extra Life raised more than $600. Next year, my plan is to host it at someone else's house because I don't have one. But literally just do all local co-op games, have us in the same place, make it like a Super Bowl party for 24 full hours.
Yeah, that seems like something that we could even do up at my place. That would be a good time.
Sounds good, yep. Madison. I'm not picky on whose house I
co-op. And whose house you invite yourself over to stream for 24 hours.
Right.
And displace their family. Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Right. So yeah, Extra Life. That was a good time. And then other than that, I've been I was going to transition into what we've been playing, but yeah, so that was our big gaming thing, and it was fun. And thank you for watching and participating, and whatever. Next year, I'll post stuff on our podcast feed. We really did kind of put it together at the very last minute, and it was mostly you putting it together at the very on the day of. I posted to a couple social media sites to bring in donations, and then it worked, which was really cool. But
maybe we can do some slightly more promotion next year because now we know we can do it, right?
For
Now
sure.
now we've done it once, so we know we can do it again.
And I will say that Naki from All Things Good and Nerdy on the Gonna Geek Network also did a stream with her boyfriend. So I may combine forces. We may work with Gonna Geek next year, or I might do something with Curiosity. I don't know. There's lots of possibilities.
And that's the other thing to keep in mind too, if you are interested at all in this Extra Life stuff, is the number of people that do it's incredible. It's a huge number of people. And you can do it by yourself. You can get a team together to do it if you're interested in doing it. It doesn't matter. Like they'll obviously take anything that they can get in terms of donations. So, and Extra Life raised over, I want to say it was $7 million this year.
It was ridiculous.
It was an insane amount of money. It was really cool.
Yeah, for Children's Miracle Network hospitals. So that was a good time. And then also,
which is the cost of one surgery. So it's rather actually unfortunate when you think about it.
In the United States, thanks America. So here we are, and now you said you've played a ton of games this summer.
I have. So for the first time, I think in 5 or 6 years, I kept a list this year of games that I've played, and over the summer, I played Axiom Verge, Witcher 3, a game called The Sexy Brutale, Assassin's Creed 4, and a game called Super Hot.
Okay.
And all the other ones that I believe I forgot to put on there. I played a lot of Final Fantasy 14 as well, but I bounced off of that again, which I don't know if it's me or if it's MMOs at this point, but I can't stick with them anymore. I just can't do it.
Well, what were you doing in it? Were you doing the story?
Yes.
Because what I'm finding with Final Fantasy 14 is it just never ends.
It doesn't end.
Because Stormblood, the second expansion, came out, and I hadn't finished all the first expansion content. And so I said, all right, I'm not going to level any side classes. I'm not going to do any side quests. I'm only going to focus on the story. And it still took me probably a full month and a half of playing just to finish the story. And it's like, you get to the point where you're just like, let me finish the story so I can screw around. Because I don't feel like I can fully commit to a sandbox if I haven't unlocked all the newest stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I got what you mean. And I was finding the classes when I was playing it. I was jumping from class to class, and like I would be having a lot of fun playing one class, and then I'd get tired of that, and I would want to go do a different class, and then just without focusing, then you're having to level up multiple classes, which just takes more time, and it was turning into a game that I stopped having fun with, and I was just kind of playing to play. And at that point, I was like, okay, I'm kind of done. So, do you want to talk about Mario Odyssey at all on this episode, or do you want to save it?
Well, I mean, with our new format, we're not really gonna be able to do. I don't have like an extensive review. I was just gonna say, I mean, basically that it was really good, and the only couple points I even had to make about it were that I'm still loving the Switch and its portability,
right?
And the difference between, I would say it's worth picking up. Instead of getting stars like in a lot of the other Mario games that get 120 stars or 120 whatevers, you collect power moons. And I don't know how many there are in the game, but it's got to be at least 500.
Mm-hmm.
So there are a ton, and a lot are really easy to get, but there are a zillion. And then you unlock a special world or something. So I've beaten the game, and it's phenomenal. And I just want to say that it's just so good.
And how many power moons do you have?
I have 300 something, and I know there's got to be at least 500 because it said to progress to the next area, you need to collect 170 some power moons. Like, what the hell? Seriously?
Sure.
So there's just a lot of content. It's really dense. But that in the Mario games, those special worlds are so fun and well designed that like in this game, it's kind of worth getting.
Well, the whole game. I mean, all of those games are well designed. All of them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. But with Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild, there's so much more for me to explore in the game, but I don't necessarily have an incentive other than just kind of, fun gameplay.
Sure.
Explore for the sake of exploring. But Mario Odyssey, I have this quantifiable finite amount that I can. So it's great. And I will say that the final end sequence with the final boss is the most fun, rewarding end sequence of any Mario game I've ever played. I was like cheering out loud at the TV. When I kind of realized what was happening, I like lost it. And in case he was sitting there like right next to me, she just looked at me. She's like, "You're like an 8-year-old right now." And I was like, "I know, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen." And it's the best end of a Mario game. And then you are immediately thrown into this like post game content with just really, really fun stuff and a major reward for people who played Mario 64 back in the day.
Sure.
A lot of throwback nostalgia stuff, but
which is pretty cool. So there was a feeling that I remember getting when I played Mario Galaxy for the first time. It was this, and I can't think of a game that I felt that way about since, but it was just this feeling of like wonder about how the world was put together, about the various tricks and things that they used to get you to do stuff, and like the sense of discovery of like moving around the world and what they wanted you to do to get the stars and stuff like that. And from what I've heard, Odyssey captures quite a bit of that. Same feeling.
Yeah, I knew you were going to mention this because I felt the same thing with Mario Galaxy, and it's just a mind blowing thing, right? It's like totally crazy. Right. I think it does to a lesser degree. I mean, maybe it's the whatever the saying is about
it could have been the time and place that we played it too.
Exactly, it could have been the time and place, but there's definitely some of that. And during the ending sequence is the one that pops into my head the most because it's just one of those like, oh my god, this is happening moments, and just so good. The gameplay is super tight and everything, but yeah, these little moments where you're kind of you're shifting the way your brain works to do certain puzzles. I think it happens, but maybe my brain's more adapted to it because I knew it was occurring, but it didn't feel like, it felt like maybe
it didn't feel as revelatory.
I felt 1 or 2 steps removed from what you would naturally think versus Mario Galaxy's like 3 to 5 steps. So I think it's there. I didn't think it was to as much of a degree, but from every other review I've read, people are like, it's just got a perfect score everywhere.
I feel like I need to play it for sure.
I would highly, highly recommend it. I mean, if the thing is, like, you only play the Switch twice a year. So I mean, if Martin Con rolls around in May and if there's no new games to play, I'll just lend you mine for a few months.
Sure.
It's whatever. I've offered to lend a few people mine, and they're always like, "No, I don't have any time." I'm like, "All right, that's fine. I'll just get more crap in Zelda." So did you beat all of The Witcher 3?
I didn't. So I think I played roughly 100 hours of it, and I want to say it was about 40% through it.
Oh my god.
Like that. The game is large in a way that I have never seen any other game be. It is, the story and the writing in it there is nothing that compares to them at all. They are that good. There is nothing that compares to them at all. In terms of video games, the only problem is that the world is so large and so just overwhelming that there came a point where I was like, it's been like a month and a half and I have only played this game, and I want to play other stuff. So I want to I need to set it down for a bit. And I did that, and I just have not had the desire to go back and play it again, because now it feels daunting to try to figure out what was happening in the world at the time, what quests I was in the middle of, because there's a billion quests to go on, ton of hunting and stuff to do in the game. The game is phenomenal, and I don't need to finish it because I played it for 100 hours and it was awesome for that 100 hours. I don't need to finish it, but it was huge. The game is just enormous, and it's just really, really well crafted. The other problem is I don't find the combat that engaging at all, and you're fighting a lot of stuff.
I had a hard time with the combat because that's one of the games Casey got me when she got me a PS4, and yeah, I played like 10 or 12 hours, so I did nothing in the game, but I remember the combat didn't blow my mind, but I do remember it seemed like there's a lot of detail, and I know it's got a reputation for being like a 300-hour game.
Yeah, and the game is so obtuse when you first start it. They do not, like, nothing is explained to you at all. And there's 7 systems that are all just layered on top of one another that you can just engage with immediately. And when I very first started playing that game, I almost said, I don't feel like spending the time to learn this. I just don't. Like, this seems like an incredible commitment that I would just kind of want to do something else. But I stuck with it, and it is phenomenal. It is a phenomenal game. It really
Did
is.
you play have you played The Witcher 1 or 2?
I played the first, The Witcher 1 I completed, which I don't complete a lot of games anymore, but I completed The Witcher 1. That game was awesome. I played the first full act of Witcher 2, of which I think there's 4 acts. And there was this choice at the end of Act 1 where it literally branches the story and you completely lock yourself out of one storyline. That's not why I quit playing it, but I chose one of those 2 paths, and I didn't love the combat in that game either. And so I just kind of bounced off of it at that point. So I was like, I just kind of don't want to keep doing this. I'm not having fun with the actual playing of the game. So, but 3 was different. 3 was a totally different experience. The combat is different a lot in 3 than it was in 2. And the story and the writing are by far the best of the entire series.
But like, I remember starting 3 and there was some part near the beginning and it was like, what do you remember about these 2 characters? And there was a reference to another game. And I was like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah. Yeah.
I was very confused.
There was some of that, and there's some characters that recur that I don't remember really, but it didn't matter. I mean, it didn't matter in the long run in terms of the story of that game.
Wow. Well, you have some other video game thing that you wanted to talk about before we.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we can talk about, so our current project as a podcast that we are embarking on together kind of feeds into what my new project is for myself. So we both got SNES Classics.
SNES Classic Mini?
And you and I will talk about what that means for the podcast in just a little bit. But I was playing, and this is the game that triggered this feeling in me. I was playing
Snowflake.
I was playing Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, which I've been playing for a little while now. I've since stopped playing it, but I was playing it, and I don't know if you've ever played an Assassin's Creed game, but the general gameplay loop of Assassin's Creed games are: you go somewhere, you climb a tower, it populates your map with a bunch of stuff. You go do that stuff until you clear it off your map, and then you go to the next tower and you do it again. And that gameplay loop is okay. It's satisfying, but since Assassin's Creed 3-ish, it's been the same gameplay loop over and over again, just that, without much addition to that. And I was in the middle of playing Assassin's Creed 4, and I was thinking, I just sat back for a second, honestly, and I was just thinking to myself, why am I playing this game? Because it's literally the same thing over and over again, and it's just me checking off these marks on my map. And it's not what I want to do. Like, this is not what I want to do when I play a game. And a lot of contemporary big budget games are open world and have similar type experiences. So I have said to myself for many years that I wanted to play through all of the Final Fantasy games again in order. So I said to myself, I'm going to do that. I'm going to finally make the commitment to do that. I'm going to take a hard look at like retro games in general. And I'm going to take, what I decided is I'm going to take a year. I'm going to take from now through next year. And this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to, for all of my single player stuff that I'm doing, I'm going to stick to retro games. In tandem with that, I'm also going to play through all of the Final Fantasy games as well. I'm going to skip a couple of them because I've played through them recently. So I'm going to skip 5. I'm going to skip I'm going to play 6 for what you and I are doing at some point. I'm going to skip 13 and 13.3 because I just played through those relatively recently, but I might play 13.2 again. But all of the rest of them are fair game, and I'm going to play through all of them, all of the rest of those. Because I have access to 15. I have access to all, including 15, which is going to come out on PC by the time that I finally get to it.
Will it?
It's February or March. Yeah. It's already been announced.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's one of the 2 projects. The second thing is for all of the other single player stuff that I'm going to do next year, if and when there's time for it, I'm going to stick to 16-bit games. I'm going to stick to retro games, and I'm going to have it be like a rediscovering my roots type project, because I want games are so it feels to me like many of the AAA games that come out now are invested in getting you to play them for long periods of time with gameplay loops that may not be that interesting. So something like Assassin's Creed, where you climb a tower and then you spend 2 hours going to get a bunch of icons off a map. And I want to just try to contrast that to games of our childhood and see just how different all of that stuff was. And kind of rediscover that. So that's my project for next year. That's what I'm going to do. My plan is to not really touch anything contemporary other than if I play like something like Heroes of the Storm with friends someday, something like that. Exactly. But like anything that I'm doing where, I wake up at 4 a.m. and play games, any of that, it's just going to be retro stuff. And us doing our SNES Classic project is just going to feed into that, because I'm already going to be engaging in those types of games anyway.
That's interesting. Is this in response to Battlefront 2 or whatever?
Well, no, because I was honestly thinking about this regardless of that. But that kind of furthers my kind of feeling about contemporary games.
And validated what you... And yeah. If you haven't heard the Battlefront 2 thing, it's Battlefront 2, right?
It is Battlefront 2. And yeah, I've heard a lot about it. I've heard
Star Wars Battlefront 2 or just Battle?
Oh, okay. I think it's just Battlefront 2, but it's a Star Wars game.
Okay.
And there's some incredible controversy right now in the news about the way that they are handling their loot boxes in the game.
Yeah, I read it was on the front page of Reddit the other day that if you wanted to get everything in that game, it would take either it was 4,400 hours or something like that,
or thousands of dollars,
or more than $7,500. It was literally either thousands of hours or thousands of dollars.
Right. And I'm certainly not willing to engage with that. And I don't want one game to be the... When I was younger, when I played World of Warcraft, I could have one game be the only game that I played always.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in that anymore. And games are slowly creeping towards the whole games as a service model of them being the only games that you play ever. And I'm just not into that. So it's something where I want to rediscover those games, see if they hold up, see what kind of weird gameplay conceits they had to make back then, and kind of look at those through the lens of somebody who has been playing modern games up to this point.
Yeah, I think that fits into our title, Game Life Balance. We've talked about this before, finding a balance for this kind of stuff, like me trying to find time to play Final Fantasy 14, and what games do we or don't we have time to get the extra stuff in? I mean,
yeah, Final Fantasy 14, the game that if you want to play, even if you just want to play through the whole main story quest, is months worth of your gaming time.
Yeah.
Months, right? And
my thing is, the world and the characters and the story to me are the best in the entire Final Fantasy franchise.
Right.
Hands down.
Yeah, they're excellent.
Hands down. So for me, that is a payoff versus games, if I had to play a Battlefront game exclusively, it's like, I mean, how many headshots can you make before you're just like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, so I get what you're saying, but I'm actually kind of but it's funny because, like, yeah, Mario Odyssey. Can I get another 170 moons? Probably, because a lot will be really easy and it's a Nintendo game. It's fun. I can bring it on the go because I've got the Switch. But then like the Arkham games, the Batman games we used to play, the Riddler trophies, there would be way too many of them.
Oh, there'd be 25 in every single area, which amounted to like 300 or something like that over the course of the game.
Yeah, exactly. And so for some reason in games like that, I look at it and I'm like, no, there's no way. I have no interest in getting all the items, getting all the secrets and stuff.
Right.
So I do think the game's hit a tipping point. 120 stars in Mario 64, pretty doable. 120 stars in Mario Galaxy, pretty doable. Like Nintendo, I think, tends to not overdo it.
I want to say I heard there were over 900 moons or something like that. Yeah.
Well, with Zelda, if you remember, there's these Koroks that you can find, and there's 600 something. So
there's like 900 of those too.
Oh, there are 900. So yeah. So I know it happens, but I don't know. I always feel like there's an attainable level of like you get a reward up to this, and then like there's extras if you want to do it, but I don't know. And I do think that other games are doing a bad job of doing the balance. So, and I get what you're saying about wanting to play other games too, because I've been playing a lot of Final Fantasy 14, but lately, I've picked up a couple other games. I even re-downloaded a game I really hate.
WWE Raw 2K.
I'm not proud of this, but
it's not Raw 2K.
I re-downloaded a Blizzard game.
You shut your mouth. You re-downloaded Hearthstone?
But here's the thing. I'm only playing Tavern Brawl and Arena. I will not play ladder. I will not play ranked ladder. I will not play standard. I will not play casual. I will not play any actual games. I am only playing Tavern Brawl when it's a fun Tavern Brawl and Arena when I have enough coins for it. So it doesn't really count.
That seems like a healthy way to play that game.
It does. And I switched my cell phone service to Google Fee, so I pay per gigabyte. I was on Sprint's unlimited data plan, but that's no more. So I did that specifically to curb my phone usage on the train. So on the train, my goal is to either listen to podcasts and learn things, especially about cryptocurrency, which I'm totally obsessed with, or read books. I'm actually reading Galapagos by Kurt Vonnegut right now. So
look at you getting all cultured.
They are better uses of my time, objectively, than
Hearthstone.
Stupid game that is terrible and shouldn't be on my phone. I think I downloaded it because I was pooping one time and I was like, I got to do something. Anyway, that does bring us to what we're actually doing with the podcast these days. And that is that we both got an SNES Classic Mini. That's the Super Nintendo Classic Edition, coming packed with 25 games. Is this 25 or 26?
It's 21.
Shut up.
Nope, it's 21.
Shut up.
It's 21.
I'm on Twitter right now. I don't believe you. You're a damn dirty liar.
Actually, it might be 25.
There's only 20?
I thought it's 21. Yeah, it's 21 because Star Fox 2 is like the hidden secret one.
Oh, right. All right, 21 games, whatever. Fine. All right, so we both got a Super Nintendo Classic Mini. So here's what we're going to do. So Game Life Balance Australia reviewed the SNES Classic Mini in one pathetic episode that was...
I'm sure it was awful.
Yeah, one episode.
Couldn't have been specific at all.
Yeah, one episode for 21 games. Dude, and AC at one point said he's never played Final Fantasy 3. I'm like, what is wrong with you? I was very upset.
Their retro gaming guy hasn't played Final Fantasy 3?
Yeah. Sick burn, John.
They need to get a new retro gaming guy.
I think they hadn't played. There was one other really
Super Mario World, ridiculous. Simply ridiculous.
No, I think the other one they hadn't played was Secret of Mana or Earthbound or something. I haven't played Earthbound, but no, there were a couple games, and I
cannot wait for you to play Earthbound. I cannot wait for you to discover that game for the first time. Cool, I'm serious. Yeah. I'm serious. That game is special.
I have a question. So the SNES Classic Mini came out a few weeks ago as of this recording? No, more than a month ago.
It's been a month and a half.
It was before my wedding, yeah. Have you played it?
Nope. But I would have. But because we talked about this weeks ago, I decided not to.
Okay.
Because I wanted to make this like a project for the podcast.
Yeah, I took mine out of the box just to look at it because it is really freakishly small. Yeah, but I have not played it.
No, I have it and the extension cables ready to go for the controllers. I just haven't I haven't played it yet.
Cool. So unlike the disgustingly
anemic
Game Life Balance Australia review, we are going to review. Here's the format of our podcast for the next 21 episodes. We're going to start the episode by both reviewing the same game. Holy crap. And then we'll catch up on what else we've kind of been doing with our lives, if it's something particularly interesting. But we're probably going to have slightly shorter episodes. And the goal is to have lots of special guest stars. Chris Farrell from the Gonna Geek Network, who's been on this show before. He's one of the hosts of All Things Good and Nerdy and the GonnaGeek.com podcast. He has an SNES Classic Mini, so he'll be joining us. And a few of our friends will be joining us. And a couple other members of the network who we have not spoken with before are going to do that as well. And yeah, it should be super fun. So we're just going to branch out a bunch.
No, we need to lay some ground rules. So Cody and I are going to have 2 weeks between each of these episodes to record. And it will be one episode or one game per episode, which gives us, if you're doing the math at home, that gives us 2 weeks with which to play one game. Now, some of these games are small. Some of these games are not small, right? Something like Final Fantasy III, you and I could get through that game very quickly, I'm sure now.
Mm-hmm.
But there are other games like Earthbound that for your first time, that's going to take you a while. I can just guarantee it's going to take you a while. So we need to lay some ground rules. And I think first and foremost, the main rule needs to be we need to try to complete the game by the time we record. I think that's probably fair. Some of these games it's going to be very easy with. Some of these games it is not going to be easy with. And some of the games, like, it'll be hard to kind of gauge what is complete. So something like Super Mario Kart, I would say we probably just need to, and we can discuss, I think it would be fun to discuss what this particular goal is to complete the game each episode when we pick the game. But something like Mario Kart, maybe we can say, like, you have to complete all of the different cups for all of the different CCs, something like that. We'll figure that out as we go. But I think that should be the prime rule of this.
Yeah, I like that.
Is to actually complete the game that we're doing. Because 2 weeks in the Super Nintendo era, even if you're playing a game an hour or two a day, you can complete these role-playing games that are on this system for sure in 2 weeks worth of time. So I think it's a doable goal. The only ones I would be worried about not being able to do would be the role-playing games, but I think it still is a good rule to have for this.
Yeah, and the only role-playing games on here are Final Fantasy III,
Earthbound, Super Mario RPG,
and
Secret of Mana.
Although I will also say Kirby Superstar it's
a big game.
It's a thick game.
It's got 13 different mini games or something like that, and it's phenomenal.
It's girthy.
Game is so good.
Also, Super Ghouls and Ghosts is like impossible. So
but you and I are going to have to. We're going to try. I mean, all we can do is try.
So we also didn't mention that how are we going to choose which game goes first?
Exactly.
How are we going to do it? We are going to take nominations
first, or next, or after. Yeah, after that.
Yeah, we are going to take nominations. So if you follow us on social media, which you should, I'm on Twitter at Producer Cody. John is on Twitter at Eat Play Game. We have been asking for the last couple of weeks for nominations in anticipation of this episode. So now that we're back, we have had 4 games nominated. What we're going to do is you'll hear this episode. You'll be, oh, great, they're back. Fantastic. You need to email us at unqualifiedpodcast@gmail.com or tweet at one of us or hit us up on Google+. It's not hard to find us. Just find us basically on Twitter or shoot us an email and let us know what game or games you would like to nominate that we would then select. So it's not a voting system because I don't want the Gonna Geek Network to just stuff the ballot box with whatever they want every week. Not that they would ever do that. Looking at USP and Chris and Steven and everyone. Anyway, so 4 games were nominated actually. One of my former radio colleagues nominated one, and then a couple Gonna Geek Network members nominated a couple other ones. So,
and there were a ton of people that nominated Castlevania, like a ton of them.
Yeah, that was weird. So the games that have been nominated for our first review are Star Fox 2, which actually I don't think we can do first because I believe you need to beat the first level of Star Fox to unlock.
I have no idea.
I've been told you do need to unlock it. So if it's Star Fox 2, then we'll have to do some Googling. But the nominations are Star Fox 2, The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, and Donkey Kong Country. Those are the nominations.
I believe Castlevania was a nomination.
So several people did nominate Castlevania. The thing is, there's no video game on the SNES Classic Mini called Castlevania.
I believe Castlevania was in fact nominated. I think that one is part of the process here.
Castlevania was nominated, but Castlevania is the name of an NES game.
I believe Super Castlevania was also nominated.
There is a Super Nintendo game called Super Castlevania 4, but there's not a Super Nintendo game called Castlevania.
So those 4 games were nominated. And those 4 games were nominated. And so what we will do now is I believe you're going to simulate a die roll.
I just downloaded an app called DN Dice.
That's perfect. So you're going to simulate a die roll.
So let's see. I don't know how to even do this. I literally downloaded it there are so many instructions. This shouldn't be that hard.
It's like really complicated.
Here we go. D4. Okay, I hit.
So we need to figure out what each number is going to mean here before we just roll this die.
I know that. I'm figuring out how to actually roll it is the problem.
It's very difficult. Maybe you shake the phone.
That actually works.
What did I tell you? That's how you roll a damn die.
Yeah, I can do that. Okay, so we've got them on the list. Wait, what is that? It just it moved after it was. I don't know. Star Fox 2 will be I don't know how you want to do it.
Let's do them in alphabetical order.
All right.
Drop the super. So Castlevania will be number 1.
Will it?
I don't know. I don't remember what 4 games we nominated.
Castlevania 4. Okay. Well, let's do it this way. Castlevania can be 4 because it's Castlevania 4. So 4 is Castlevania 4.
Sure. Okay.
2 is Star Fox 2.
Star Fox 2. Yep. No, that makes sense.
And then
there can be only one.
Finish that sentence.
There can be only one Highlander, but that's not a game. There can be only one Link.
I don't know what you're going for. Well, Donkey Kong Country has 3 words in the title, so that'll be 3.
Okay, so that's 3.
All right, so I'm gonna roll this ugly, hideous yellow 4-sided die using this app that has been rolling 2 since I started rolling it. So apparently we're gonna do Star Fox 2. This seems really dumb. No, literally.
Is it just rolling 2?
It's just rolling 2.
Okay, well that's not going to work then. So let's do.
Yeah, no, this is.
Here, I'll give you I'll just go random number generator here.
How do you? Yeah, but I do not believe anything you're about to do.
No, okay. You can believe. Okay.
How do I set a success value?
So the minimum is 1. The max is 4. Are you ready?
No,
this is
I'm gonna roll this. Wait, now it's actually this is fascinating podcast listening. I know the listeners are just.
So it's actually giving you random numbers now. It's not just 2 over and over.
No, it's
okay. I'll take care of it.
This app is garbage. All right, do not use DN Dice. I'll just download a different app.
I'm not. No, I've got it. I'm at random.org, and it's a .org, so you know it's trustworthy.
I don't believe you have to share your screen then.
I don't know how to do that. You do it then. You do.
All
go to rant. If you don't trust me, go to random.org.
This is
literally random.org. You're taking far too much time. This is an audio podcast.
Is it random.org?
Random.org. On the right-hand side. True number generator, just minimum 1, max 4, right? That's all you got to do. And then you hit generate and you go.
All right. Here we go. Random.org. I'm sharing my screen. Do you see this?
I am. Yep.
All right. For those of you listening to the audio podcast,
this is truly fascinating.
I'm sorry about this. Oops. Minimum is 1, maximum is 4. Generates result 2. Was that it?
It's always 2. Yeah, that was it. It's always 2, whether you roll your dice or whether you do this. It's Star Fox 2. It's been foretold.
So I literally just did this 7 times in a row. The first 6 times were 1 or 2. And then finally it was 4. So Star Fox 2 is the first one we're going to review. I feel like that really is kind of blowing our cover early.
To be fair, it's the only Super Nintendo game that neither of us have played.
That's true. Okay.
So I mean, there's some interesting stuff there.
Okay, how to play Star Fox 2 on
We can look that up
SNES
after. We'll look that up
Classic.
after.
No, we have to do it on air because you said how fun it would be
To look
to
doing research.
to discuss the game on the SNES Classic.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
that's true.
we don't have to play through and beat the first level of the first Star Fox game.
Okay, so you and I are going to have to both do that. So we don't actually know how this game ends. So it's going to be difficult to determine what the end of the game is. So
I really don't like the idea of playing Star Fox 2 before the original Star Fox.
We can backpedal this. That's fine. Let's backpedal.
Like, should we just do Star Fox and then Star Fox 2? Or should we do them both as one review?
That we can do. Let's do that.
We're gonna do Star Fox and Star Fox 2.
Star Fox and Star Fox 2 that'll be the first SNES Classic project.
Wow.
You heard it here first, folks.
Deluxe episode. All right, I will inform several people that we know who own SNES Classics that this is the route we're taking. And so next episode, on episode 44 of Unqualified, of whatever this stupid podcast is called. Game Life Balance. We're going to review the Star Fox franchise on SNES Classic Mini. The other thing that I want to do, I'm not sure if this will happen, but I want to maybe not stream, but I want to get video of me playing these games with my wife watching, because she always notices things I've never thought about when I'm playing video games. Like when I'm playing Civilization, she's like, what are those foxes? And like, I don't see foxes on the screen. I'm looking at resources and stuff. And like, it's funny. So I feel like since we played a lot of these games on this SNES Classic Mini as kids, I kind of want to like give her a little tour.
I think all of them. I think, but at least between the two of us, we have played all of them. But for sure, Star Fox 2.
Yeah. So I think I want to kind of take her down a little tour and then maybe post it on our YouTube channel under a special playlist or Twitch channel. I have not told her that I want to do this, but she can deal with it because we're married, yo. Bling bling, put a ring on it. No, but seriously, I'm gonna try to maybe make some videos out of this and see if that can happen. But but otherwise for next week we're gonna do some Star Fox 2 action.
Yeah, and just to give you an update on where I am in my current project, I am almost through, I've almost completed the original Final Fantasy, which I will say I have never played before. This is the first time that I will have completed the original Final Fantasy, so that's kind of exciting.
And I never completed Final Fantasy 2 or 3, so I may start to play one of those so that we could review Final Fantasies 2 and 3 maybe on the podcast at some point.
But keep in mind, listener, this is going to be a totally tangential thing to what we're doing. The actual project for the podcast is the SNES Classic stuff that we're doing. So Cody will be posting, you'll get this review for the first two, the Star Fox 1 and 2 next week. And then over the course of the next couple of weeks, Cody and I will both probably post links to hey, respond to this tweet with the next nomination of a game, because we're going to do the same thing next time. We'll have a number of nominations and maybe we'll come up with a better system of how to actually randomize it.
That was atrocious.
But we'll pick something else next time based on what you nominate. And we've already decided that there's going to be we're going to have like an RPG round at some point, because those are such larger time commitments that when we are at a comfortable spot where we know we're going to have a little more time, we'll say, okay, we're going to nominate the first RPG that we want to play.
Yeah.
So we're going to treat those a little differently. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun.
You can email us at unqualifiedpodcast@gmail.com. So please hit us up there, because I know not everybody's on Twitter. Although you should be.
Maybe they can end up in the show notes or something.
Yeah, it's good. So, a couple quick notes from the Gonna Geek Network before we wrap up. There are other shows on the Gonna Geek Network, and they are really good. There is a podcast called Strange and Unusual, the letter N, that has it's from Strange and Unusual. They have a podcast called Friend of the Family, which is very funny actually. It's about a vampire friend of a family of vampire hunters. It's pretty cool. But on Friend of the Family, season 3, episode 9, Basements and Behemoths, Alice and Ozzy. Shoot, I haven't listened in a minute. But Alice and Azzie run into some old friends, and beloved franchise is maligned by dark nerds. Spoilers, necromancy. This is not a sentence. This is not
the bad copy.
This is bad copy, but it's a good podcast. So please check out Strange and Unusual on the Gonna Geek Network. And on the Digital Soup podcast, this is a newcomer to the Gonna Geek Network. On Digital Soup, episode 48, it's called Battlefront Microtransactions and the Black Screen of Death Star. The kitchen is stocked this week with irritating news from EA, Star Wars Battlefront 2, Xbox One X crashing on release, and the iPhone X hates the cold. Also, YouTube gets tough. Is your flash drive secure? And Amazon secures a Lord of the Rings deal of the day. All right. This week, the Digital Soup is beefy like The Rock and goes best with a nice hot hashtag apple cider dongle.
Yeah, there's going to be a Lord of the Rings TV series on Amazon Prime.
Oh, God. God, why? Really? The movies aren't long enough? They can't be longer than the movies.
I can tell you're really excited about
it. Anyway, that's on the Gonna Geek Network at gonnageek.com.
Which we are part of.
Part of that. So you can also check out our sister show. Oh, wait, we have like closing copy, don't we?
I'll take care of that.
Okay.
I got it up.
All right. You got it up?
I do.
You got it up? Yeah.
My desk is 3 inches off the ground.
Wow.
We do have a sister show in Australia. It is the Game Life Balance podcast AU edition. AU for Austria. Anyway, you can find links to their show on our site. Actually, you can also find them where you find any of all your other podcasts, and they're very funny.
You're not reading any copy. You're just saying.
No, I'm not. I was just saying that's what we have. We have a sister show.
But
I will now
closing.
I will now read.
You didn't have to improvise.
Read the outro copy.
All right.
Thank you for listening to the Game Life Balance US Austria. That wasn't even that funny. Thank you for listening to the Game Life Balance US podcast, the American edition of the Game Life Balance podcast. Please like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed this episode, and leave us a review if you really want to make our day. You can find us on the Gonna Geek Network at gonnageek.com or on wgnradio.com. Learn more about Game Life Balance, including contact information and links to our sister show in Australia at gamelifebalance.us.
You mispronounced Austria.
Oi, mate. That was my best Austrian.
I do have to thank them for taking over our stream because that was cool of them.
Yeah.
And they really did good.
And they're funny guys. You should listen to them.
They're very funny. But
not funnier than us, but they're funny.
But they are also literally the worst. So it's kind of like this podcast, really.
It's a really good way to go out.
Hi-yo! Ah! All aboard!